Cutters, Degrassi, Unpopular Opinions. Hey there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Degrassi Unpopular Opinions thing. This is kind of a weird one because I'm going to be talking about two people during the same topic. The topic is who had a giant ego after the Rick Murray shooting. Now you'd be thinking to yourself, what does ego have to do with the Rick Murray situation? I'll explain that in detail. But anyway, so as everyone knows about the Rick Murray situation, I'm not going to really repeat myself, but in time stand still, Rick gets embarrassed because he gets paint and feathers put on him during Mike Your Brain, and then basically Emma spurns his kiss and all that. So he goes home, paint and feather and all, and then brings a gun to the school. Basically, Toby tries to stop Rick from going into the school, but Rick has a revenge on his mind. Rick goes after Paige, or attempts to, but Paige basically calms him down. Rick puts a gun in the locker and then basically cleans himself in the bathroom, and then he hears Spitter and Jay, and then they talk about how Jimmy was the inside man and all that, and basically how Rick decides to shoot Jimmy, despite Jimmy not having anything to do with the paint and feathers thing. And then you got Emma, who was caught in the crossfire as Rick wanted to destroy her for spurning his advances and all that. But of course, you got to realize about ego is that ego can bring you down in a sense. There are two key components of ego. Like, you can also say Emma might have had the biggest ego, but after the shooting, but basically she was trying to get back to the Emma she knew and loved. She was, instead of the zombie Emma, if you will. So anyway, I digress. So anyway, there are two people that come into mind about ego and all that. And I'll explain each person in detail and why they have the biggest ego. I go with Jay and Raditch. Now you'll be asking yourself, could there have been any other people with egos and all that? No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone had ego and all that. Snake, I don't think his ego. He wanted to build his ego up. He knew he screwed up with Rick. He should have done enough. And he blamed himself. And that's fair enough. But you also got to realize with Jay and Raj is that their egos were in different subsections. Now, as many of you know, that I spend a lot of videos nitpicking on Raditch and all that, and saying why he was such a bad guy, and when he wasn't a bad guy at all, and all that. Before 2018, when I started doing these videos, I basically had every inkling, if I ever saw Raditch or Dan Woods, I would punch him out. True story. But the fact of the matter, guys, is that the more I researched and the more I looked at the episodes, the more I realized maybe he wasn't such a villain after all. Maybe it was just misplaced. I think he was just a misplaced villain, and I'm right. But this is why Raditch seems to have the biggest ego. Because, here's the thing. Raditch was the head honcho of Degrassi from Season 1 to close to the end of Season 4. He basically was portrayed as somebody who was trying to run the school of 700 students who had teenage issues that he probably didn't understand. He basically made some enemies along the way. That being Sean and Emma, in a sense. Sean, because, Sean always accused Raditch of nitpicking because he was poor and all that. And Emma, because she felt that Raditch was basically unfair towards her in the fight for your right thing. As I said I can't remember, in the unpopular opinion about did Raditch have a grudge against Emma, I basically went over that episode and basically why Emma and Raditch were at heads against each other. But long story short, Emma was made to apologize for everything and take full blame. She does kind of take blame for this food fight, but she doesn't like the fact that she's trying to that Raditch is trying to censor her. And she basically tells the school about his misdeeds and basically saying that, if he's suspended for the rest of the week because of my outspokenness happens, so be it. And of course, I think Raditch was upset with Emma that she would have the gall to call him out. And basically, he probably thinks that the school is going to basically run all over him because now he's showing weakness and all that. So he has to suspend Emma to basically try to get his own ego and basically tell the students that don't cross my path and all that. Not too many students crossed his path and all that. Maybe it was effective. But, I still think Raditch had things against Emma. And in Mercy Street, season 4, episode 4, I think. Well, if you believe that the season premiere is 2 parts instead of 1 part, then it's the 4th episode. Otherwise, if you look at the 1-hour one, it's the 3rd one. But regardless, Mercy Street was when Emma decides to stand in front of Rick, not letting him pass in the hallway. Raditch sees that and tells Emma to move. Emma says, "We don't want him at our school." And he said, "This is not one of your stupid crusades and all that." This could only be that Raditch is tired of Emma trying to change things up and all that. And, that's an ego-building trip. And Raditch saw the Orange Ribbon campaign, couldn't really do too much because, it might have been silent. And hey, you know what? Maybe Raditch didn't foresee that it was going to bring violence. I mean, Emma didn't know that it was going to be a violent trip to destroy Rick. I mean, yeah, Rick should be ashamed of himself, but he probably was. And, beating him up and all that. That's against the cause of domestic violence. That's domestic violence in a sense, in another way. Like, I know everyone says, well, Alex, basically, and all that. It's like, that could possibly be an unpopular opinion later on, is that basically Alex's role in the Paint and Feathers thing, was it warranted or not? I think I can do that one. Yeah, I'll probably do that one. So I'll write that down. Because I know that her role and all that. So yeah, so I'll write that down and save it for the next time I do unpopular opinions videos. So basically, yeah, that. But the fact of the matter was, and I lost my train of thought. Shit. So basically, Raj was running the school, and basically, things were falling apart around him and all that. And then, of course, Rick comes into his office and talks to him, but Rick doesn't say what he's supposed to say. And Raj basically takes as a sign that Rick is just begging Raj to force Jimmy to be his friend and all that, thinking that, Raj is my ally and all that. But that's not how it works in the real world, Rick. It basically, all that, and I don't blame Raj one bit. But of course, after the shooting and all that, after what happened, he basically goes to Snake and wants warning signs. Snake agrees, but then Snake basically lashes at Raj, saying that your stupid foresight was terrible. And Raj says, I have 700 students to keep my eyes on, and how was I supposed to know one was going to overreact to some paint? And basically Snake rips into him and all that. But the ego trip is basically when, in the deleted scene, obviously we didn't see it first run, but basically Snake talks to him, and Raj says that this is not preschool, and make friends is not part of the curriculum. I mean, after all the situations with Rick and the Paint and Feathers, you think Raj would have clued in something was fishy? He still had that making friends thing in his head and all that. But of course, after the shooting, I mean, he opens the school up Monday for counselors and for teachers to talk to students. That's a fair assessment. That's fair. You can do that. But basically, in Voices Carry, his ego ended up being part of the subplot. Now, of course, the main plot we all know is about Craig being with Ashley and being part of Ashley's dad's wedding, and basically Craig being bipolar and all that. But anyway, Dracula is put on. Liberty and JT think that it's a good idea to put the play on. Raj doesn't think it's a good idea, saying that in light of the events of what happened the previous week, we can't put this on. And basically, Liberty and JT try to calm him down. But JT sarcastically says, what about a musical? And Raj says, yeah, that's a good idea. Get on it. See what you can write. So basically, Raj was basically thinking of himself. Now, I can get it. Like, it was kind of violent. It was kind of stupid in a sense. But the problem is that when you come down to it, is like basically, does he actually listen to the students? I mean, JT and Liberty are trying to say that this play can help heal the school and all that. Now, you can't blame Raditch. I mean, with the way that the shooting happened and basically how the school is being portrayed and all that, I don't blame him for going bananas because, I mean, like, he's probably the laughingstock of the principals and he needs to do something to get everyone back in his good graces. But anyway, when you look at things, it's like, did he listen to his students? Not really, no. And this was pinpointed when JT and Liberty were trying to have a song that the drama club sang, and Alex says, I'm all about rebellion, but I don't want to be expelled over this. Everyone walks out. That tells you that something fishy's going on, because it's like, why are they scared of Raditch? And what has he done in the aftermath? His own egos got in his way. So practically that, JT Liberty does end up singing the song to Raditch. He's not too happy and puts both of them in Monday detention. And then either 1 or 2 days later, he's out the door. The school board decides to get rid of him or reassign him, in a sense. And all that. And it's like his ego. Yeah. He had a big ego and all that. He didn't listen to his students. He practically forced a musical on them, and he didn't like how people talked about him and all that, even to his face. Now, of course, this all was before the shooting. Basically, he had these problems before the shooting ever happened. So basically, yeah, it was just manifested. And basically, he was just portrayed as someone who wasn't willing to listen to his students and basically was too uptight and all that. And then Hatzilakis came in and did some very good stuff. I know she did some bad stuff with keeping Peter around, but what the hell can you do? So anyway, yeah, his ego really got to him, especially in the aftermath. I mean, I know that probably wasn't why he got canned. He probably got canned because of him ignoring Rick and all that. And, he testified, and I think he knew he had to be honest, because why else did he just get reassigned and not get fired or basically fined and put on probation or something like that? I don't think the police would have really did an investigation, would have given criminal charges to Raditch. I think they would probably have just given him a fine and a probation. I don't know. I don't know what they would have done to him. I mean, Raditch's ego probably was such that, he thought he was going to be around forever. And all of a sudden, bam, he's not. He probably took a massive hit saying that, he really hates himself. And I wouldn't mind hating on him myself. So anyway, you got Raditch's ego. But what about Jay? Do you think he had the biggest ego after the shooting? I think so, but here's why Jay has the biggest ego. Jay, well, as we all know, the shooting and all that, Jimmy got shot, blah, blah, blah. And then Jay and Alex were talking in the hallway. Alex says, I should never have gotten involved in this. And Jay says, hey, you're alive. And then Spinner pops out of the classroom and says, hey, we all thought you were the one that may have got shot. It was Jimmy, man. And Spinner realizes that we told Rick Jimmy was in on this. I gotta tell somebody. And Jay says, don't you dare tell anybody. Spinner says, he's my best friend. Jay goes, either outcome, he was your best friend. Basically saying that if he survives, he probably won't be your best friend. And if he's dead, then, well, he's not your best friend anymore because he's dead. It seemed to me that Jay basically was not willing to have his name dragged through the mud. Spinner was trying to say that we may have killed Jimmy. And Jay goes, we didn't do anything. And all that. So basically, Spinner kept everything to himself and all that. Now, you can partially blame Jay for that, and you can partially blame Spinner because, Spinner could have easily just come out of the shadows, get rid of his guilt, and basically tell people that he was in on why Jimmy got shot. In Eye of the Tiger, that's what happened. Spinner basically did all he could. But Spinner felt he needed to cheer Jimmy up because Jimmy says, I'm not going to be the basketball player I am ever going to be. And all that. I just wish Rick had better aim. It could have happened, but Rick did turn his head at Jimmy when he shot Jimmy and just got him in the spine. He could have missed completely. But anyway, yeah, Jay basically put the bug in both Spinner and Alex's head not to tell anyone about anything because, Jay figured that, to keep his name secret. And, there was no way Jay was going to let Spinner and Alex drag his name through the mud. But, of course, Spinner tells Jimmy everything, including the fact that he and Jay did it. And basically the school shuns him. So the point is that, Jay berates Spinner, saying that I called it. I knew you couldn't keep your mouth shut. Spinner says, Jimmy deserved to know. And Jay says, okay, but now you feel like an outcast. How does it feel like an outcast? Like me. Basically, Jay wasn't helping matters in the least. So anyway, Jay and Spinner get drunk and then crash Jimmy's party. And basically, Spinner gets told off by Jimmy why Spinner is not his best friend. Because a best friend wouldn't leave his other friend high and dry to basically cover his tracks up and all that. So, of course, Spinner goes to Lackles, puts himself and Jay into things. Basically, I know Spinner did the right thing by having Jay and all that. Strange thing is, of course, Alex got left out of it. But anyway, regardless of what ends up happening, is that Spinner and Jay are expelled. They actually go back to the school. Well, Spinner wants to burn the school down for the fact that they weren't willing to let him try to get his courses. And basically, he wants his friends back. And they won't want him back, so he's going to make him pay for it. But Jay basically does the right thing by taking away the lighter, saying that if you want your friends back, this is not the way to do it. And I'm like, Jay being noble? But anyway, yeah, Spinner and Jay are allowed to come back in season 5. Jay doesn't for obvious reasons. Of course, Jay's ego was partially why. Because Jay basically said that the school had to find a scapegoat and knew that Spinner was weak in the knees. I think they would have known Spinner was weak in the knees after Spinner told Jimmy the truth about everything. The school never went after Spinner. Basically, Spinner went after himself. Now, I know Spinner should have just avoided Jay and basically spurned Jay by saying all these things. And Spinner could have also taken the fall himself. He could have just left Jay out of the issue, but Jay bullied him. Jay's ego was why Spinner basically told on Jay. I think he wanted Jay to pay for his crimes, if you will. And of course, Spinner yells at Jay saying that, why am I with you? I do bad things. We should never have done that thing to Rick. We should never have done that to Jimmy. If I didn't know you, Jimmy probably would have been walking. But Spinner and Jay end up being friends. Yeah, Jay had an awful ego and all that. He knew that he didn't want his name dragged in the mud. And Jay was lucky that he only got expelled and that the police never investigated. Because the police probably would have put Jay into the juvie for sure. And, well, Spinner would have admitted things too, but I think Jay basically was just a scumbag and all that. I know he had a redemption arc with Manny in season 6 and 7 and whatnot, but I just couldn't stand with Jay. I mean, like, he basically was trying his best to prevent Spinner and Alex from dragging his name in the mud. And what did Jay do? He basically pounced on those two, saying, don't you dare say these things about me and all that. I'm actually shocked that Alex didn't come clean. Alex probably would have come clean and basically pinned things on Jay, obviously. But I mean, Jay's ego was his own downfall. So what do you think? Who had the bigger ego? Is it Jay or is it Raditch? Personally, I can't choose. But because of the actions leading to Rick's death, it's got to be Jay. I know some people might say Raditch might have the biggest ego about the shooting and all that. Because, he had to protect his school. He had to protect his self-worth. He had to protect a lot of things. And the students basically thought he was just being unfair and all that. But I think Raditch basically learned something from it. Who knows? Maybe he didn't take the reassignment well and basically just left. He just ended up quitting and going to California to do some kind of TV show. Who knows? And who cares? But anyway, thanks for watching this episode, and we'll see you.